Oh, yeah, baby. Duke football, a big comeback. They defeat North Carolina. The Blue Devils now 5-0, and the victory bell is the right shade of blue.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us on Monday, September 30th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and first watch each and every day. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, and also you can watch the show each and every day on YouTube. Duke defeats North Carolina 21-20 in an epic comeback. The Blue Devils, for the first time since 2018, defeat the Tar Heels. And the victory bell is now the right shade of blue. We're going to discuss all of that and more with our good pal Jordan Mann from the Big J and Little J show. We got to recap the victory, tell you about what happened in this game and what's next for the Blue Devil team as they keep moving forward. 5-0, the record for Duke, their best start since 1994. Best start in my lifetime as a guy that came into the world in 1995. Really excited to discuss all of it. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Really do appreciate all your support. So without further ado, let's bring him on in. He's repping the Duke brand, the Duke gear here today. Fresh off that win, we've got the Duke football team that defeated North Carolina. How are you, Jordan?
I'm good, JJ. I don't know if you can hear, a guy literally is cutting down a tree right now outside of my window right when we started recording. So, look, that's just a minor hiccup. But first, I just want to talk about thoughts and prayers to everybody in the western part of the state. I know you're from right outside of Asheville, your hometown, and the people that have been watching this show that's out there, just everybody in general, thoughts and prayers to everybody out west in North Carolina. And
I'll just say, most definitely, and I'll have a couple of more thoughts about that towards the end of the show, but definitely thinking about the 828 in Western North Carolina after the weekend that we went all through. So thank you for saying that, Jordan.
Yeah, for sure. And also, sorry for the listeners, if you do hear this guy cutting this tree down that fell due to the storm. So I'm sorry for the inconvenience in that part.
All right, but it's a big win for Duke. They trailed by 20. They come back. They pick up the win. Just all the emotion, all the excitement. Holy cow, man. They got the job done. For a while, it was like this team only scores 26 points per game, right? We finally came over that hurdle in last week's game. Now on Saturday, they've got a big comeback that they've got to make. It's the second largest comeback in school history, and it's against the guys from Chapel Hill. What a win it was for Manny Diaz in his debut in the Duke and North Carolina rivalry.
Oh, man, look, the saying goes, tale of two halves, and that's pinpointed what happened on Saturday. I didn't know if Duke was going to get more than 3 first downs the whole game after that first half, JJ. But, look, shout out to the coaching staff. Halftime adjustments. I think Jonathan Brewer said in the press conference today that UNC gave Duke a different look than they were expecting. They were expecting a similar look that they had against JMU, and so you could see why Duke struggled early in the first half, made the adjustment second half, and shout out to the offensive line, man. They made up running lanes for Star Thomas, and then the defense, look, they were on the field for so long in the first half. They bent but didn't break, and they made it manageable. 20-0 is pretty manageable, come to find out, JJ. I think now Duke's like 2-72 all time, being down 20 or more. So, hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take those 2 wins. Hopefully we don't put ourselves in many more 20-point deficits in the games to come. But it's good to know if that happens, it's possible. If that happens, the Duke football team can come back and respond. Just so gutsy. The team's so fired up and excited after the win, and rightfully so. You got to think about guys like Eli Pankel, who's been a part of this Duke football team now for 6 seasons. He had never experienced the feeling of defeating North Carolina or being able to bring the victory bell back home to Durham in the right shade of blue. Like, really, really cool stuff for players like that within the program, because it's been a while, man. Daniel Jones, the last quarterback to get the job done. Now Malik Murphy joins that conversation as well. Just long overdue, brother.
Yeah, long overdue, and happy for Pankel. And honestly, this type of win was for the Dwayne Carters of the world. that were on the Duke team last year that was at Duke for 5 years and was so close. So with the jump pass and then with the two devastating losses with Drake May, come from behind wins late, like this was sweet for many reasons, but also for past Duke players that deserved to win against Carolina. So I'm happy for those guys.
Yeah, I know Mateo Durant was one of those guys in attendance on Saturday, and Eli Pankel got to talk about seeing him in particular. And again, another great Duke running back who just never was able to do it, never able to be part of the team for Duke that knocked off North Carolina. But they did that on Saturday by a score of 21-20 in the second half. Star Thomas, man, talking about running backs, talking about Mateo Durant being in the house. When Star Thomas wanted to make a play, he did. Coach Manny Diaz, very complimentary of his efforts after the game and a massive reason why Duke was able to win this football game.
I mean, how good has that dude been for the last 3 weeks? I mean, back to back games now, over 100 yards rushing for a run game that was non-existent for the first 2 weeks of the season. And now he has his best performance against Duke's biggest rival. And I think it's the dad strength, JJ. I really do. This is 3 weeks now, man. He is just dominating. He's doing great. And also, look, can't get lost in the shovel. Peyton Jones averaged 7 yards a carry and had the go-ahead touchdown. And that's a big guy that – you want to talk about recruiting, JJ? Star Thomas transfer. Peyton Jones chose Duke over Virginia Tech, being from, I think, Virginia Beach. Duke's doing it in the transfer portal and in the recruiting trail, and you're seeing it on the field.
Duke wins the football game by a score of 21-20. North Carolina jumps out to a 20-0 lead. In the third quarter, it got to be a 20-0 game, 17-0 the score at halftime. And then Duke was able to find the end zone 3 different times in the second half to win this game. And then as the game was coming to a close, North Carolina is trying to put together a drive, Jordan, where all they need is a field goal. A field goal would get the job done. They would break Duke's heart once again, but it's Jalen Stinson, of all people, the mighty safety, coming down, able to come in and put a clean hit on Jacoby Criswell as he's throwing the football, and it lands inside the arms of Trey Freeman, and Duke, with the interception, able to win the game.
Yeah, look, that was very nerve-wracking for fans, and I assume coaches. Manny Diaz said the whole time they were going to punt on 4th and 1, but honestly, that was the one time I was speechless on what would I do as a fan if I was coaching. Do I go for it on 4th and 1 or do I punt? And obviously you're like, hey, win the game now. But Duke's only had basically one 4th down conversion all year, and that happened. And going in the fourth quarter, Star Thomas had the 4th and 1 run. And that was the first 4th down conversion Duke's had besides the pass interference penalty earlier in the game that Duke's converted all year. So I was nervous about that because I gave UNC, 20 yards to go if Duke didn't score or didn't convert. So you punt, and shout out Cade Reynolds, the Duke's punter. Punts it, lands at the 5-yard line, and it takes UNC 40 seconds to get past the 20-yard line if it was a touchback. So he wasted 40 seconds by pinning them deep at the 5-yard line to set up the Jalen Stinson blitz, hits the QB, lands in Trey Freeman's arms. And, hey, Trey Freeman's from the Bull City. Is a Bull City night, and that was just fantastic win.
What a win it was for Duke. They're now 5-0 for the first time since 1994. We've got plenty more to discuss from this big win from the Blue Devils. We'll talk more offense and defense. A road game at Georgia Tech is coming up next. So much more to discuss here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. With NFL fans, you can now get into the hunch in the middle of a game. You could check out latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page, where you place your bets. 2 Monday Night Football games for you to be on the lookout for a little bit later tonight. Good ones, the Lions and the Seahawks. Then you've got the Dolphins taking on the Jaguars. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. My apologies. That's Dolphins Titans coming your way a little bit later tonight. So 2 great games. You can go see all the lines and more over at FanDuel. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. Back here on Locked On Blue Devils, JJ Jackson alongside Jordan Mann of the Big J and Little J Show. He's on X at JMan's Takes. And Jordan, again, just what a win that was for this Duke football team, making plays all the way to the finish line. Again, just the resilient nature was really impressive from a team who was playing in their first ACC game of the season.
Yeah, resilience. And look, they battled with adversity like I'm battling with adversity right now. I had to relocate because I thought the chainsaw was coming through the window when you're doing the ad read. So I had to relocate to a quieter spot in my house. But Duke, yeah, resilience, man. Like, the team just fights. Like, through 5 games this year, think about the adversity Duke's had to deal with. I mean, Northwestern, double overtime on the road, terrible weather conditions, just battled back, made no excuse, won a big road game against a Big Ten team. UConn, Duke's up early. Looks like it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be a rout. They scored 21 unanswered, take the lead. Duke battles back and wins 26-21. And now this game, Duke's down 20-0 against their rival who's owned Duke the last 6 years, I think it is. And Duke isn't phased. Manny Diaz said at halftime they want to just hit singles. Don't try and hit home runs, hit singles. And that they did. There was just a 6-yard run here, 8-yard run here, 15-yard pass here, and it just would turn into scoring drives, and Duke won 21-20. So in 5 games, JJ, you've been battle-tested 3 times. Just phenomenal by Duke.
We'll see how they respond coming up this weekend in Atlanta against Georgia Tech. I want to talk about Malik Murphy, who gets his first opportunity to play in this rivalry. You look at the numbers, he's got 209 yards passing through the year, 1 touchdown. So we're used to multi-touchdown performances from Malik Murphy, just 1 through the year, but did not throw an interception. First time all season that happened. Malik Murphy, however, was just 15 of 34 passing. Pretty ineffective there. How would you kind of assess the performance that he had?
He just seemed like he was pressing the whole game. He just seemed like he was forcing a lot of things, and he's done that in games leading up to this, but he would always, hit the easy ones and to get him back in rhythm. And then we'd see a really good Malik Murphy. He just couldn't get in rhythm against UNC's defense. And I mean, that's a tip of the cap to Jeff Collins and his defense to make Malik Murphy overthink some things. And it kind of summed up what I tweeted on my Duke FB fans page. Going into halftime, their UNC's running prevent defense, and it's a 15-yard wide open pass to Samir Hagans because UNC's letting Duke catch a 15-yard pass to play in front, and he just airmailed him. And it was like that just kind of summed up Malik Murphy's game where he just was in his head, it seemed like. And he struggled, but you know what? The guy still hasn't lost a start in his college career, which is crazy. Look, he's undefeated. Like, it wasn't pretty. I'm hoping for a bounce back this week at Georgia Tech. Duke's going to need it. But if you had told me Malik Murphy was going to have less than 50% completion percentage on this game and not look like himself, I would tell you Duke's going to lose. And Duke won.
Yeah, this whole coaching staff has talked a lot about the passing game and how it's kind of an extension of the run game when Duke wants to hit on some of those short passes within the first couple of yards of the line of scrimmage or even behind it. And that was definitely the case on Saturday as well. Further into the numbers, again, 15 of 34 passing for 209 yards, 8 of 10, however, for Malik Murphy on passes either behind the line of scrimmage or within the first 5 yards of play. So deeper down the field is where a little bit of the inaccuracy came to play. A couple of times, you're getting pressure from the North Carolina front. Credit to them for doing that. And it's, you got to throw the ball away, all of those things. And then that's kind of hurting your numbers and whatnot. But they're close to the line of scrimmage. It was fine. It's just trying to push the ball a little bit further down the field, which Duke had been able to do last week and the week prior. It just wasn't really until the second half. They get the big pass play to Jordan Moore. That was a nice sigh of relief. But really, those deep field shots were the tricky ones for Duke to convert on.
Yeah, Duke's receivers are struggling to create some separation downfield, too. I know Huzzy was all over Jordan Moore and could have called maybe a PI once or twice. But honestly, I didn't think Duke deserved those type of bailout calls because the passing game was so inconsistent throughout the game. And but you can make those calls. You can make those arguments as Duke fans. But, yeah, look. He just needs to have a bounce-back game, Malik Murphy. He needs to take his singles. As Manny Diaz said, the team needed to take singles. I think if Malik Murphy can take his singles, then that can lead to the extra base hits that he's trying to look for. And case in point, JJ, is Duke's first touchdown. 2nd and 19 or 2nd and 20 off an intentional grounding because Malik Murphy threw it away and stayed in the pocket. Now you're behind the chains. Nothing's open downfield. Just dump it off to your running back. And Star Thomas just runs past everybody in front of him. And so just take those little singles because they can be inside the park home runs for all we know.
Without a doubt, yeah. Take what you got, make plays out of it, and that's what the Duke football team was able to do. Again, what a performance for Star Thomas. 166 yards rushing on the ground, had 2 catches for 45 yards through the air, including a 29-yard touchdown reception for Star. Being able to run the football really helped this Duke team as they were trying to get back into it. You know, you hear your team down 17-0 at halftime, and the message from the coaching staff is still the same. We got to establish the run, which in some ways, Jordan, is surprising because it's like, look, you're down 17. At some point, we got to throw the football a little bit, and yet they were right. Establishing the run was able to kind of open things up for the rest of the offense.
Yeah, establish the run. It just gives a better flow to the offense. When you're letting your offensive linemen go downhill instead of having to retreat every drop back, like you're giving those guys their strength and confidence. And that's what offensive linemen want to do anyways, is get downfield. And you saw it. I mean, that all 5 guys offensively on the offensive line was phenomenal. They were phenomenal. I mean, what's his name? Screens graded out as he's a PFF, like first team all PFF this week because he graded in the 90s. Like, and he had a PFF grade of like 55 against Elon, his old team. And so he's progressed from week 1 at like a 55 through week 2 and 4, he was in the 70s. Now against the rival, he's in the 90s. Like the offensive line is coming along, and it's making me excited for ACC play, JJ.
You'll take it. Yep. Duke's got Georgia Tech up next. We got to talk a little bit about the defense and then those games ahead for Duke football. One more timeout, and then our conversation continues here in just a moment on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks, it's easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater events, and more. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. It's the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Game Time is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Back on the program here today, JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jordan Mann of the Big J and Little J Show. Tell us about the show.
Yeah, Big J and Little J Show will be recapping the Duke UNC game tomorrow, Tuesday. Connor has a Wake thing he has to take care of. Wake, Connor is the man. Like, I got to brag about my co-host.
A lot on his plate.
Yeah, Connor O'Neill is the man. He does fantastic work for Devils Illustrated for Duke and Deacons Illustrated for Wake Forest. And so he's just tied up today. So we're going to push recording back to tomorrow, have it out for the Duke fans. And I'm expecting a little bit more listeners this week, JJ, as Duke did beat Carolina. And this is where a win like this, JJ, helps Duke football content because it gets the casuals, and that's not disrespectful, it just gets the casuals to buy in more to the football programs. Like, hey, you beat UNC, you're 5-0. I want to see what Duke football is about.
And by the way, we are very well aware of the fact that this is, in some ways, a basketball week, Jordan, right? Because come Friday, we've got countdown to craziness. And right now in Duke country, we've got a lot of things to talk about and a lot of things going our way with this win for the Blue Devils over North Carolina. And then, by the way, countdown to craziness, player introductions, several recruits set to be on campus this weekend. Like, that's awesome as well.
Yeah, and normally Duke's always the butt of the joke when in football they start, 1-3 or 1-4 or whatever. And it's like, well, countdown to craziness is in blank days. Well, guess what? You can do now both. You can support both. And shout out to the Duke fans. It was sold out at Wallace Way. The atmosphere was electric. Like, it seems that Duke fans are buying into the football program as well as basketball. So as long as we can keep that up, baby, I'm going to be happy because, you know, you and I, we talk about Duke football and Duke basketball, so it's the best of both worlds for us.
Over 35,000 fans in attendance at the UNC game. This is after Duke had an attendance of something like 21,000 for that UConn game. So a massive, massive jump for this game against North Carolina. Shout out to the Duke fans for getting there. We mentioned the offense. Got to talk about the defense. In a win like this, a 17-0 deficit at halftime. It turns to a 20-0 deficit before Duke starts to mount the comeback. When the offense gets going, you're just hoping that the defense can stand their ground and not allow North Carolina to get in a rhythm, and that is exactly what they were able to do, Jordan.
Yeah, and as a Duke fan, like, we are have so much scar tissue of PTSD of, like, when that basically what you just said. And my case in point was I was thinking of the Duke-Pittsburgh game. I think it was 2018 this happened, where Pittsburgh was up 26-3 in Durham. Duke came back from 26-3 and took the lead. I think it was 30-29 or something like that. And then the defense did an all-out blitz, and the dam broke, and Pittsburgh scored the game-winning touchdown with like 15 seconds left after Duke basically went on a 30-3 run to take the lead. And that's what basically in the back of my mind and every Duke fan's mind is, okay, the offense just did exactly what the defense did. They gave the offense a chance. The defense did by holding UNC to 20 points. Now the offense has scored. Please, defense, hold your own. And they did. Like, the defense was lights out, like you said. It's a long-winded answer, but I have to just shout out, like, a couple of guys. Like, Vincent Anthony Jr. Was a menace in the backfield. The defensive line was a menace in the backfield. Preston Watson's a redshirt freshman, and he is – in his snaps that he's had for Duke this season, the guys in the backfield, Kendi Charles done well from Liberty. And, I mean, Wes Williams, Aaron Hall. Look, I can name every guy, JJ, because I'm so proud of them. But I just love to see how the defense collectively came together.
Yeah, 2 sacks for the Duke defense, 6 tackles for loss. So they continue to live in the backfield. It was the Trey Freeman interception at the end of the day. And then Terry Moore, Ozzie Nichols leading the way for the Duke team with 10 tackles on the day. So each and every week, in some ways, it's different guys stepping up and able to make these plays.
Yeah, it's a collective unit. And Manny Diaz has said this too, and maybe even Patke, the defense coordinators. Why wouldn't you want to play at Duke if you're a defensive recruit in the country? Because it's a party in the backfield, and it doesn't have to be a defensive lineman. It can be a linebacker. It can be a safety. Like Terry Moore had tackles for losses coming from safety. Jalen Stinson, how we just talked about, he hit the QB to force the interception by the linebacker. So it is everybody, that's all 11 defensive guys can stand out in this defense. Why would you not want to play for this type of defense if you are a high school recruit?
Able to make the plays when it mattered most, and that's what Duke did. They're 5-0 for the first time since 1994. Again, that is crazy to think about, Jordan. This is 30 years that the football team has been since they were 5-0, man.
We don't have to say 30 years like that, JJ. Somebody on this show is 30 years old, and that's still young. You know, that's not that long ago, okay?
Yeah.
The whole
I'll
30
be joining
years.
you there soon.
You're making me feel very old. I have a couple grays, but, you know, it's still young. But that's why I shaved for this show, to make me look more like 25 instead of 30. But
there you go.
It is crazy that it's been since 1994. Shout out Goldsmith. Like, that was a great start to the year. I think they started 7-0. So if Duke wins at Georgia Tech, you know, be 6-0 for the first time since 94. So, you know, we'll wait for that. But it is cool to see Duke start having new records being set to where 5-0 now since 2024 rather than 1994.
What are you thinking about this game coming up on Saturday? Early thoughts, trip to Atlanta. Our friends over at FanDuel have Georgia Tech favored by 7.5. Georgia Tech is 3-2 on the young season. What are you thinking?
I mean, Georgia Tech beat us 2 years ago. It was when Brent Key was interim head coach, and Duke, I think, was the favorite going in that game and at Georgia Tech. But look, Hayden Sking's good. You gotta respect their offense, but most importantly, I respect the hell out of their defense, and that's because Duke's former defensive coordinator Tyler Santucci is the defensive coordinator. Jess Simpson is D-line coach. It was Duke's D-line coach under Elko. I respect the hell out of those guys, and it's going to be, look, 7.5, whatever. It's going to be a tough one at Georgia Tech. And I hope Duke's ready to fight, because I do know this team for Duke has been fighting all year. And I also know Coach Santucci and Coach Simpson, they're fighters as well. So it's going to be a good one.
One more time, if you will, Jordan, promote your show and how people can best support you.
Big J, Little J Show, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We will be starting a basketball preview shortly before the season starts, so look out for that. But yeah, you can follow it on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and at Twitter at Big J, Little J Show, and follow me for football content at DukeFBFans_.
All right, we'll see you again next week. Jordan, thanks for the time, man.
See you, buddy.
That's Jordan Mann joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and yet another victory for this Duke football team. We love it so much. 5-0 for the first time since 1994. As we come to a close today, once again, thoughts, prayers, my heart goes out to my hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, and all of Western North Carolina who was impacted over the weekend when Hurricane Helene came through. If you are able to contribute in any way, the American Red Cross, a great place to go. Duke Country extends all throughout the Carolinas, nationwide. We talk so often about the brand that Duke is, and certainly thinking about all the people impacted by this. Thank you for your support each and every day here on Locked On Blue Devils, for listening to my show and being a part of this Duke family. Really do appreciate that. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you get them. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Like this video on YouTube. Share it with your friends. We're back at it again tomorrow. That'll do it. I'm JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.